Is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report, as we go now to the Oscar-winning film The Cove, which opened last month in Japan after months of protests by right-wing activists who had pressured some cinemas into canceling screenings. The documentary stars Rick O'Barry, a former trainer for the hit 1960s television series Flipper. He is now a dolphin activist, and the film documents how a group of filmmakers used hidden cameras to expose the annual slaughter of over 20,000 dolphins in the small fishing village of Taiji, 200 miles southeast of Tokyo. Ultra-nationalist groups say the documentary is anti-Japanese and distorts the truth. They also accuse the filmmakers of having connections to an anti-whaling direct-action group called Sea Shepherd that Japan labels a terrorist organization. But the controversy turned into a debate over the freedom of expression. Major newspapers and prominent filmmakers and lawyers condemned the cancellations. In June, a Japanese court issued a rare ban against the demonstrators, ordering them to stay away from the theater showing The Cove. Dolphin activists like Rick O'Barry say the real impact of the film inside Japan can be gauged during the 6-month dolphin hunting and killing season, which begins September 1st. Well, I had a chance to interview Rick O'Barry and the director of The Cove, Louis Psychosis, earlier this year, shortly after the film won the Academy Award for Best Documentary. Psychosis wasn't able to deliver an acceptance speech when he won the Oscar because the producers cut the mics as soon as Rick O'Barry pulled out a sign urging people to text the word dolphin to 44144. I asked Psychosis what he would have liked to say had he been given a chance to speak.
We made this film to give the oceans a voice. You know, we told the story of the Cove because we witnessed a crime, not just a crime against nature, but a crime against humanity. And we made this movie because all ocean life is in peril, from the great whales and dolphins to plankton, which incidentally is responsible for half the oxygen in this room. I would have thanked the Black Ops team for risking their lives to tell the story in Japan, and I would have asked the Japanese people to please see this film and decide for yourself whether dolphins should be used for food and for entertainment.
The film is astonishing. How did you come to make it?
Well, I run the Oceanic Preservation Society, and I guess it was in December of 2005, I was going around to marine mammal conferences, and Rick O'Barry was supposed to be the keynote speaker at a conference down in San Diego with 2,000 of the world's top marine mammal scientists. And at the last minute, he wasn't allowed to talk by the sponsor. And I said, well, who's the sponsor of this event? And some people told me SeaWorld. So I gave Rick a call and said, Rick, why wouldn't they let you talk? And he said, I was going to talk about the captive dolphin industry and how it relates to the world's largest slaughter of dolphins on the planet. And I'd never heard about either one of those enterprises before, so I called him up and said, who's doing anything about it? He said, well, right now, just me. Do you want to come? And I said, yeah, I have to catch up with you because I had to take a 3-day crash course on how to make a film. This is my first film. And then we went to Taiji, and driving into Taiji was like driving into a Stephen King novel. You know, everything on the surface looked like it was, Happyville. There was a sign in English as you come to town that said, "We love dolphins." But everything about the town in reality was quite the opposite. Right in between the Whaling Museum and City Hall, there's a national park, a Japanese national park, a nature preserve that Japanese people can't go in, and that's where they kill more dolphins than any other place on the planet. And Rick said if we could just get in there, we could show the world what happens, and maybe we could stop this. And so that's kind of what the film's about, is us trying to create a kind of an Ocean's 11 team to penetrate the secret cove. And I think that's why the film's so popular, is because it doesn't feel like a doc. You know, documentaries are like the Brussels sprouts of cinema. You know, it's going to be good for you, but you're not really looking forward to it. It's not the main meal. It doesn't seem like dessert. But this film, it sort of bridges this gap. It's more like an Ocean's 11 film. In fact, George Clooney, I met him at the Oscars last week, and he said, this film is better than an Ocean's 11 film because it's real.
Well, we're going to get to that film, but I want to get to the man who started it all, who started you on this whole journey. Rick O'Barry, talk about your activism, how you came to be such an adamant spokesperson against the killing and the confinement of dolphins.
Well, let's see. I started. Actually, I went to work at the Miami Seaquarium in the early 1960s, right down Biscayne Bay here, and I captured dolphins and trained them for about 10 years, including the dolphins for the television series Flipper. And in 1970, I started doing the exact opposite, untraining them and putting them back in the ocean where they belong. So that's where it began for me, and it was nothing that I planned. I haven't planned any of this.
How did you discover Taiji, the Cove, what the documentary is named after?
Yeah, well, every so often, every few years, you would see a photograph of this bloody scene in Taiji. But I didn't go there. I knew about it. I was very busy working on the captivity issue. That's what I have been focused on since 1970. So I just assumed there were other groups working on this, because there are some very big groups in Japan, environmental groups, animal protection groups. But I finally went there. The first time I went was in 1976, and it was related to the whaling issue. I didn't even know the dolphin slaughter was taking place until I returned in 2003, and I've been going back ever since, 4 or 5 times a year. And when I first saw what goes on there, I really didn't know what to do. It was so unbelievable. And incidentally, the film that you saw, you're looking at the G-rated version. I mean, what goes on there is indescribable. It is so over the top. I didn't know what to do. And so I asked my Japanese colleagues, and they said, Gaiatsu, G-A-I-A-T-S-U. Gaiatsu is external pressure. It translates into external pressure, and that's the thing that has brought about more change in Japan since the Second World War than anything else. Gaiatsu means bring in the media. So I started bringing in CNN, the BBC, whoever would come. And I got a call from Louis. And it's such a wonderful story he tells about, you know, when he hung up the phone, he went out and took a 3-day course on how to make a movie.
Louis Sahoyas, to explain how that conversation with Rick, how seminal it was for this film.
You know, I was a trained journalist. I worked for, you know, National Geographic over the course of 18 years, Time Magazine, a lot of other places. But I'm used to getting both sides of the story. You know, that's the point as a journalist. You get both sides. And so I went to the Taiji mayor's office and talked to them for about 7 hours, negotiated with them, and then went to the Dolphin Hunting Union the next day with the mayor's union, or with the mayor's office. And at the end of this 2 days of negotiations, they said, they threatened me. They said, we're not going to let you do the story, and you should get out of town. It's very dangerous for you to be around here. We can't protect you. And, you know, that was sort of my permission to, you know, take off my journalist cap and try to join the ranks of Rick and become an activist. And, you know, that's what we did. We created sort of a, you know, this elite team of activists to penetrate the secret cove. And I tell you, you know, it felt really good to be on Rick's side for a change, where you can really affect change, and you're not just supposed to report what goes on. Because I felt like, you know, we're running out of time to get both sides of the story. We're destroying the environment at this massive rate, and you know what's going on in Taiji. You know, we're just trying to say to the Japanese people, see this film now and decide for yourself whether you want this to be going on in your country. It's a you know, I feel like film is the most powerful weapon in the world. I call it a weapon of mass construction. You know, you drop a bomb, you kill people, you make a film, you create allies, and this film has done that. You know, we have, you know, over 1 million people trying to help solve this issue right now. It's incredible what Rick has done. You know, that's why this film, I think, is so popular, because Rick proves that, you know, one person can make a difference, and a few people together can change the world.
Louis Sahoyas, director of the Academy Award-winning documentary The Cove. We'll have more with him and activist Rick O'Barry after break. Stay with us.